Hello, I've got a carpal tunnel situation going on here, so please ignore that. It looks way worse than it is. So this will be a bit of an experiment. I think it will be fine. I'm having high hopes so far. I mentioned in one of my previous videos that I tend not to use TBRs. I don't set myself monthly TBRs, I don't set myself yearly TBRs. And what I meant by that is I don't set myself a set number of books or specific books that I'd like to get through in a month or a week. As fun as this makes watching content online, for me I always felt really pressured when it came to that. All I have basically is a list of books that I own that I want to read, so an owned TBR, and then a to buy TBR, so books that I want to buy that I have not read. I have an IKEA, what are they called? Kallax. Currently, my TBR actually does not fit into one of those squares, but mostly into that square. That is my owned TBR. But I thought for August, it would be an interesting experiment to see what happens if I set myself specific books to read. Can I get through them? And will I enjoy it? Will it be stressful? Will I just hate it? We'll see. So as a note, it is the 11th of August when I'm filming this, so we're kind of already almost halfway through the month. We're going to try setting myself an August TBR, and I'm going to set myself 5 books. I'd say on average I read around 5 books a month. Sometimes less, 3 to 4 if it's not a great month, or if it's reading some really chunky books. Sometimes way more if I'm reading books that I really love, books that maybe don't challenge me as much, maybe shorter 100 to 200 page books. It really ranges, but I've not gone for 5 because of the number. I've selected a few books that I really want to read and thought, okay, I'm going to try and pick them all up. This is my TBR. Yeah, you can kind of see that. 4 out of 5 are related to reading challenges. 3, their own separate reading challenge, 1 a different one, and then the 5th is just a book that I really want to read that I bought at the end of July. So that's how we're going to split it up. I've already read 2 of them, so I'm doing pretty good. 2 books until the 11th of July. 2.5, I'd say. I'm halfway through my 3rd book. But let's go through them. So first we have Reckless by Cornelia Funke, and this is number 1 in the Petrified Flesh series. Then we have All That's Left Unsaid by Tracy Lien. Next up is The Discomfort of Evening by Lucas Reineveld, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Then we have The Husky and His White Cat Chizun by Meatbun. And next we have Some People Need Killing, a memoir of murder in the Philippines by Patricia Evangelista. So 3 of these are from the library, you'll have noticed, and that is also some external motivation to read this within August. That's kind of why I picked those 3 books. I don't really want to go and have to get those books out again if someone asks for them afterwards. So I'll go through the ones that I've read so far. I've read Reckless by Cornelia Funke. This is a book that I own. I bought specifically for my rereading challenge. I'm not going to talk in too much depth about this one because I want to save it for its own individual video. But yeah, this was nostalgic. Definitely not as highly rated as I once considered. This was pretty easy to get through. Like, it is a children's book. It's rated as a children's book, so it's not super difficult to get through. And the next book that I read was The Discomfort of Evening. This was for the Storygraph Reads the World challenge. I think this was in my original video where I kind of reintroduced myself and started saying that I'd be doing booktube. In that, I briefly mentioned an app called The Storygraph, which is an amazing book app, essentially an alternative to Goodreads that isn't owned by Amazon. And something that they do each year is hold a challenge called the Storygraph Reads the World Challenge. And they select 10 different countries, and the challenge is to read a book set in that country by an author from that country, and it's to try and diversify your bookshelf outside of UK or US based stories. This was for the Netherlands. I don't really know what to say about this book. Not only will this book be on my Storygraph Reads the World challenge video, but it will also be on an upcoming video that I'm planning of the most fucked up books I've ever read, because genuinely, what the fuck? If you've read this book, I'm sorry, first of all. Secondly, you'd know what I'm saying, because it is dark, it is disturbing, it is, at first, like a really amazing portrayal of grief and how that impacts a family, but it is not a book that's going to be for everyone. It is not an easy read. It's really rough. I considered DNFing it around 200 pages in, but then I was kind of like, oh, I'm doing this for a challenge, I might as well just stick it out and accept the fact that there's going to be this like really triggering event happening basically every other chapter, which it then did go and happen. Every other chapter it did happen. So the writing was still beautiful. It was incredibly well written, just the topics and the themes were hard, and I would never recommend this book to anyone, and I would never reread this book. That's the best way to say this. The next up on my TBR is Some People Need Killing by Patricia Evangelista. Obviously the title caught my eye, but also this came up when I searched the Philippines in my local library catalogue. And the Philippines is another country for the Storygraph Reads the World Challenge, and I don't think I've ever actually read anything from a Filipino author or anything set in the Philippines, which is wild. This is about essentially the regime of this awful mayor and the kind of the state-sanctioned killings that happened during his reign, and a journalist reports on the different stories and her own experiences covering these cases. This book is so much more than that. It goes into a lot of historical depth, it goes into a lot of political depth, also some of the individual stories of the people that the journalist Evangelista has gone and interviewed throughout her time, and the impact that this regime had on individual families. It's another rough one. I am about 200 pages through this. Next up, we have All That's Left Unsaid by Tracy Lien. This is another Storygraph Reads the World challenge, and this is for Australia. Again, I kind of just looked at my local library catalogue. I don't know as much about this one as the other two. So I believe we have our main character, Kai, whose brother is brutally murdered after his high school graduation celebration. There's a lot of reoccurring themes here. I'm realizing a lot of family death in these books that I've chosen. And our main character, Kai, essentially tries to figure out who has murdered her brother, and everyone who could have been a witness is staying silent and won't break their silence. And I believe what made me more interested in this as well is I felt like a fiction book, but two, I believe this is set within an Indigenous Australian community, kind of a little crime thriller vibe. A special little treat at the end is the White Husky. That's not what it's called. It's The Husky and His White Cat Season. It's volume 9. But yeah, this is a Dan May novel. A pretty popular one, I'm gonna say, outside of MXTX's novels. Am I wrong to say that Meat Bun is the second most popular in the translated fandom? I don't know if I'm right in saying that, but this one, yeah, I've been in it for a while, and I typically go and read the volumes as soon as they're published. I put this at the end of my August TBR to, once again, motivate myself to finish the rest of these. I think I can do 5 easily. For my first set monthly TBR, I think is a pretty safe bet, considering I've done 2.5 already. We'll see. And I will check back in later once I finish these books, hopefully by the end of August, and I will let you guys know if these were the correct books to choose, and also if I felt that setting myself a TBR was beneficial, or if it's just going to be like this stress-inducing, terrible thing. It is really hot. Hello, I am back, and I'm very happy to report I did it. I did it. It is the 17th of August. And I've completed the 5-book TBR that I set myself. And to be very technical, I did read an extra book before finishing the 5th book of my TBR because I fucking felt like it. So when I last checked in, I think I was around halfway through Some People Need Killing. I also just want to correct, I got something completely wrong. So when I was talking about All That Is Left Unsaid, I said that I believed it was an Indigenous Australian story. I was so wrong, guys. It is a Vietnamese Australian story. It is set in the 1990s in a very specific Vietnamese Australian community. And the main character is not called Kai Tran, but Ki Tran. I mispronounced her name, which is something that they go into depth like within the first 5 pages of the book, but I hadn't read the book at that point. Just wanted to correct my past self. I want to go into more depth about these books in their own videos. I enjoyed both of them. I gave Some People Need Killing 4 stars out of 5, and All That's Left Unsaid 3.5 stars out of 5. So a little less for All That's Left Unsaid, but I have my reasons that I'll go into in a different video. Yeah, then the next book I read was volume 9 of The Husky and His White Cat Season. Heartbreaking as always. So on to kind of wrapping up how I feel now about setting monthly TBRs. I am excited. This definitely increased my motivation to read. It kind of gave me a bit more direction of what I wanted to read rather than just randomly picking whatever. To be fair, yeah, it was at the beginning of the month setting somewhat random books, but I think it just helped me feel a bit more organized. As to whether or not I do this again, I think so, yeah. I have a few ideas actually coming up about how to choose my TBR. I think I have around 17 owned books. There's probably more. maybe around 20 now, to be honest. What I don't want is for this to feel like a challenge, like a huge challenge that puts pressure on myself. So I'm very happy that I tried to do this and that I succeeded. It's only the 17th of August, like it's not even the end. I have many more books that I could fit in before the end of August. But I also think setting a monthly TBR made me think about what I was intending to feel when I read these books, rather than seeing it as a challenge to read X number of books in this month and to like increase my reading stats or anything like that. I don't want to see reading as a task, as a chore, as something to be completed, as something to maximize, to optimize, right? Like I'm sick of thinking like that. So overall, I think this was a really fun exercise. I learned a lot and I succeeded. I'd recommend it to others. I mean, I don't think there are many people online in the booktube space, the BookTok space, whatever, who don't set themselves monthly TBRs. I'm probably in the minority here. I think it's important and fun to be intentional about what you're reading and how you read it, and to kind of not try and see it as like a task and something to tick off. Like, this is fun. This is a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. How many times can I say fun? And that is it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Please do let me know if you've ever done something like this before, or if you're kind of a habitual monthly TBR person who likes to tackle their TBR in a very organized way. Maybe I won't be a mood reader going on. Let's see. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in a video next time. Bye bye.